The great German-American political thinker, the greatest woman political thinker of the 20th century, Hannah Arendt, said repeatedly that public space, sharing with others in a public setting, is basic for a democracy. It's basic for a free and equal society. And I have tried to develop that idea into the principle that when you think about it, a democracy with its elections and the monitoring of power, democracia monitorada, is in fact the public ownership of the means of decision making. So how do you do that? It depends upon the context, but the use of volunteers, randomly selected and then volunteering citizens to monitor elections, to be involved in the electoral process, to be there on the day of elections, is a very important way of producing a culture of public ownership of a basic institutional mechanism for deciding who gets what, when, and how. It is very unusual by global standards. It should be written about by scholars. It should be a media topic because it's of foundational importance for the sense that citizens are not just down there and representatives are up here, that governments are way beyond little people down here, but that citizens actually, when you think about it, have the capacity to change things, which changes our whole understanding of power. We think of power as up there. We think of power as Machiavelli spoke about it, as basically protected by the gun, and that power is deceit, power is manipulation. Actually, there is a whole different way of thinking about power, where power comes from below, where it is the basic coming together in public of citizens to have a conversation, to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, a meal together, where they talk about life. It is those laboratories in which actually power relations can change. And actually every major policy change since 1945 in democracies began in this way and not from the old understanding of power. I'm thinking about civil rights for black people. I'm thinking about the rebirth of the women's movement, the greening of politics, the politics of disability, the politics of same-sex marriage. All of this began from below, and it began with those public gatherings of two or more citizens outside party systems that actually projected these demands, expectations, onto parties and politicians and elections, and policies and laws were then changed. I think that when the historians look back on Facebook and Twitter, they will be very interested. I think we don't entirely understand the long-term consequences of this, of these new media, but I think the digitalization of life, the so-called Internet of Things, the way our lives are conducted in and through digital flows of information, are having effects on elections and parties and parliaments. And there is no doubt, for every example you can give of corrupting effects of these new media, there are also democratizing effects. That the sense of empowerment from below, the sense that it's possible to develop a Facebook campaign in support of a representative or in support of an election, against bullying, against violence, against manipulation, is something that is hugely important. A small example. A few days ago, Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States, gets on a flight on the east coast of the United States, and he is filmed on iPhones, moving through the plane, through the cabin, and shaking every passenger's hand, one by one by one by one by one. Why did he do this? As a statement against a different type of presidency, who is arrogant, narcissistic, as a commitment to equality. I am the same as you, and I am saying hola. And this is all filmed, and this goes viral. This is an example of the democratizing effect of this new media configuration, which is causing a great disturbance for all democratic institutions, including elections.